everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, sparring out for Jonathan Taylor. Today's topic is pretty much dictated by the calendar. Namely, it's how to write relationships. I'm not talking exclusively about romantic relationships. Platonic or familial relationships can also be written based on the points I'm about to make in this video. And so, if you want more in-depth coverage on those particular relationships, I suggest you search through BookTube and OfferTube and find out whatever you can, whatever you would like on those. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list of everything you need to know. This is meant to be a companion piece to what is already out there, to some extent. With that out of the way, I speak too fast sometimes. Let's get into it. Point number 0, because yeah, that's what we're starting. Point number 0, the characters you are writing the relationship, who are in the relationship you are writing, need to be fully fleshed out characters in their own right. In other words, you can't have a new character whose sole role or sole definition, as far as the story is concerned, is to be the friend of an already established character. Any new character you bring up needs to have similar levels of definition to characters you have already established. Meaning they have to have well-defined wishes, likes, goals, ideologies, that sort of thing. All of which will more or less fully or partially overlap with those of the already established character that this new character is befriending. To what extent this overlap should appear, and how that influences the way their relationship, regardless of what it looks like, is influenced, is something you'll have to learn for yourselves. Point number 1. Focus on the goal of the story. Think about how the goal of the story impacts the relationship you're trying to spotlight, and on one hand, and on the other hand, focus about how the relationship you're spotlighting influences the goal of the story. A lot of people here, a lot of the videos that I've seen in preparation for this, always talk about what it means to write a positive or fruitful relationship, be it friendship or romance. However, you can also set out to write less positive, or maybe even outright toxic relationships. Because for whatever reason, it can serve a point within any kind of narrative, and I think you should consider how the aspects of your characters influence that kind of story, and how their characterization makes them more or less susceptible to either falling into one, or making a relationship degenerate into toxicity. Think about a typical YA love triangle, where you have an average protagonist who has to choose between a broody, dangerous edgelord and a cute, wholesome boy next door kind of thing. Whatever choice you make between these two, 90% of the way up until that choice can look exactly the same, whether or not you're trying to write a positive romance or a toxic romance. But that last 10%, which won't be at the end, but will be scattered throughout, will consist of various moments that will switch the story over from positive to toxic. again, think about what makes your characters more susceptible to that, given their given their personality, their backstory, or maybe even their setting, and build a story around that, or think on how the story influences influences that particular relationship or these particular people, so that so that they reach the point that you want them to reach. Speaking of, number 2. What is the influence of the setting? How do people generally interact with each other? Is there any kind of class or caste system within the society? Is there some kind of a stigma attached to interacting with people outside of your own social group, be it defined ethnically or religiously, or simply by how much money their parents make? That sort of thing. And also, do those differences impact in any way how the characters interact? Keep in mind, Japanese has a pronoun category that is designed specifically to address status differences between individuals. So that is something you can that is something that your story could have, or that generally needs to is to be considered within your world. Think of the friendship between Legolas and Gimli. They I don't remember if they exactly like each other at first in the first Lord of the Rings movie. However, over time they find out that they each have their own courage, their own strength of character. They recognize each other as warriors in their own right, and they see what makes each other meaningful and valuable and interesting as as people. In a similar vein, there is also Game of Thrones season 2, when Arya is forced to work for Tywin. Tywin immediately figures out that Arya is a noble-born Northerner, based on what she knows and based on how she speaks. These are the kinds of things that impact and influence the way your characters interact, and these are the kinds of things you need to take into account when you're writing how they initially interact and how their relationship goes on to develop. Point number 3. Like I said, relationships develop, relationships change over time. For that, I'll give you 2 examples. Think of yourself and your best friend. Think about how you were when you first met your best friend. Have you changed since then? More than likely your answer will be yes. Think about your best friend now. Has your best friend changed since then? More than likely your answer will also be yes. Has the relationship you have to your best friend changed? Some of you might answer no, because you're still friends. To which I say you're wrong, because not all friendships are the same. After all, they are your best friend. Your relationship changed, and you can tell because there are lots of things that you talk about now that you wouldn't have talked about in the beginning. There are things you trust them more with now. There are things where you rely on them more for help, and that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You are more willing to allow each other to influence your lives because you recognize that that you have that your continued presence in each other's lives is a net benefit. That's example one. Example two is consider a couple of teenagers who are just falling in love for the first time, and now consider that same couple several decades in the future who have kids of their own who are either in high school, college, or further along also have kids of their own. Does the same couple at different points in their life interact the same way? No, and it's not just because of age difference. More like just like the best friend example, these characters uh, now have common experiences. They now have a common uh, reference pool, so to speak. They they have they have they allow each other to reveal more sides about themselves to their partner. Hell, in many cases, their partner actually helped mold these other sides, and that kind of relationship isn't really as passionate or as engaging, but it is still but it is still important. It still matters. So yeah, consider how that changes. Consider what it means to allow someone to live in your head and in your heart for so long, and how not just the relationship changes, but also how the people themselves would change. And now going from that to the complete opposite point. Number 4, chemistry matters. A lot of people really put this more on number 1 or 2, but to me, to me it's number 4. A lot of people over focus on chemistry, which, don't get me wrong, it is important, but it's not the main thing. It's still something that needs to be considered. Think about, for example, insta-love. IRL insta-love doesn't really occur, but an instant attraction does occur. Call it a crush, call it infatuation, it exists, but it doesn't really become love until a little bit later. When exactly? Well, that depends on the switch. Whatever switch that your characters have that makes them see whichever other character we're talking about as somewhat more than just another random person in their background, or in a specific setting within their background. Same goes not just for romantic relationships, but also for friendships. You meet people all the time through school, through work, through hobbies, whatever. But at some point, there is one aspect about that way that person conducts their daily life, or their hobby, or their work, that makes you go, I'm kind of digging this this person. I kind of want to know more about them. I kind of want to have a deeper / closer relationship to them, and that's how you delve into that. You might think that familial relationships are exempt from that because unlike friends or lovers, you don't get to choose which family you were born in. To which I say that is true, but you still get to choose which family members you spend your time with. You know how it's said that parents have a favorite kid or kids have a favorite parent? Yeah, that's because that specific parent or kid partnership has the best chemistry, and because they have the best or most workable chemistry, they will naturally choose to spend more of their time together, and because of that, they might show some degree of preference. and that has influence on the way various family tragedies or family dramas can unfold. So yeah, that's these are a few things to keep in mind. Once more, a little recap. All your characters need to be fully fledged characters. All characters who are in the relationship you are describing need to be fully fledged characters. You have to consider what the endpoint both for the characters and for the story as a whole is, and how these endpoints influence each other. You have to look at how the setting either allows or hinders any kind of relationship these characters could have. You have to consider how and to what extent relationships change, and what it means for characters who are in long-term relationships to change with the relationships they have. And finally, and last but not least, you have to think about how chemistry influences the way new relationships emerge, and how they influence their development. And that was all I had for today. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have anything you'd like to add, the comment section is widely available. My voice just cracked there for some reason. If you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to see when the next video comes out, spoiler alert, it's going to be next week. When exactly next week, then, well, you'll have to subscribe to find out. Maybe also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.